The chamber of the Galactic War Council stretched like a cathedral of steel and light. Its ceiling arched high above the delegates, a dome filled with glittering screens that showed the star systems under Council command. Rows of seats curved around the central floor, each row rising higher than the last so every being could see the speaker's podium. It was a place of history, a place where empires had declared wars, signed treaties, and judged who among them was worthy of standing in the stars. On this day, Earth had been invited for the first time. The invitation was not one of respect, but one of formality. Humanity had recently been discovered during a skirmish at the edge of known space. The larger empires decided it would be amusing to allow this small and fragile world to attend. After all, the Council believed that Earth was nothing more than a primitive world that had stumbled into the stars by accident. The envoy of Earth, Thomas, entered the chamber with a steady pace. He wore a plain uniform with the emblem of Earth stitched across the chest. Compared to the glittering robes, jeweled armor, and grand cloaks of the alien delegates, his appearance was simple. He carried no entourage, no guards, and no aides. Alone, he walked across the shining floor and took his seat among giants. Around him sat beings of great power. The scaled generals of the Vrokan Empire towered over their seats, their golden armor reflecting the chamber's lights. The winged envoys of the Solari Dominion fluttered their feathered crests as they whispered to each other. The cold-eyed leaders of the Ikari Collective clicked their mandibles in amusement, their voices echoing like knives against stone. Each of these civilizations had fleets that spanned dozens of systems. Each of them had built weapons that could erase a world in minutes. When Thomas sat, a ripple of laughter passed through the chamber. Some of the council members leaned forward to better see him, as though he were a curious animal brought into their hall. One of the Solari envoys spread his wings wide and spoke loudly so all could hear. "So this is the human envoy? So small, so plain. Do all of his people dress like workers from a mine?" Laughter followed the words, harsh and unkind. The Vrokan general beside him lifted a goblet filled with glowing liquid and added, "Perhaps they confused the invitation. Perhaps this is not a council envoy but a messenger boy." The chamber roared with more laughter. Thomas sat still. His hands rested calmly on the table before him. His eyes did not waver. He did not respond to their words. The mocking grew. The Ikari delegate, clicking its mandibles, hissed, "Does your world even have ships, human? Or do you ride your clouds and call them fleets?" Again, laughter shook the hall. Yet as the storm of mockery grew, a few voices in the council did not join in. Among them was an aged commander of the Valari Union, a species known for their long memory. He had studied the reports of skirmishes near Earth. He remembered whispers that small human patrols had destroyed pirates in ways no one could explain. His eyes did not laugh. Instead, they studied Thomas, searching for the reason why this man was unshaken. The session began with the council displaying the power of each empire. Holograms filled the air above the podium, showing fleets of thousands of ships moving in perfect formation. The Solari displayed their warbirds with wings of energy that cut through void and metal alike. The Vrokan revealed their dreadnoughts, each one larger than a city, bristling with cannons. The Ikari showed their swarms, endless rivers of living ships that darkened stars. When Earth's turn came, the chamber grew louder with laughter before anything was even shown. The projection revealed small cruisers, models decades old by galactic standards. The hulls looked fragile compared to the great vessels of the other empires. The chamber roared again. One delegate slammed his claw against the table, declaring, "These are not ships. These are tin cans with engines." The laughter rose like thunder. Some even pounded their tables in joy at the humiliation. It was not a debate, not a fair display of strength. It was a spectacle meant to remind Earth of its weakness. But through it all, Thomas did not move. His expression did not change. The storm of insults passed over him like waves against a stone. His silence began to feel heavy. Some noticed it, though most did not. A few delegates stopped laughing, their eyes narrowing, wondering why the human did not break. At last, the council chair raised a hand, and the chamber slowly fell into quiet. The voice of the chair was deep and commanding, echoing through every corner of the hall. "The Earth envoy has been heard. The council recognizes their presence, though their power is limited. We will continue." And so the session moved on, yet the memory of laughter lingered in the air. In that moment, humanity had been judged weak, mocked, and dismissed. The council believed the story was over. They believed the human envoy was nothing but a silent witness to his world's smallness. But Thomas sat in silence for another reason. He did not answer their laughter because he knew something they did not. Beneath his calm eyes rested a truth that the galaxy was not yet ready to hear. The session of the Galactic War Council continued, but the air in the chamber still carried the sound of laughter. Every time the image of Earth ships appeared on the display, smirks spread across alien faces. Delegates exchanged whispers, and many turned their eyes toward Thomas as though he were a joke sitting in their midst. A representative of the Solari Dominion rose first. With wings folded close and crest feathers shining under the lights, he walked to the podium. His voice carried across the chamber, sharp and clear. "The Solari Dominion presents its fleet," he declared. At once a grand hologram rose above him. The image showed dozens of sleek vessels in flight, each shaped like a blade of light. Their wings glowed with energy fields that shimmered brighter than the stars. The ships moved in perfect formation, cutting across the void like a storm of swords. Gasps and cheers filled the chamber. Admirals from other empires nodded in approval, and the Solari envoy spread his wings wide in triumph. He turned his head slightly toward Thomas and smiled in open mockery. "Observe, human envoy. This is how a true species commands the stars." When he stepped down, a Vrokan general took the podium. His golden armor shone like fire as he raised his hand. "Behold the might of the Vrokan Empire." The hologram shifted and a massive vessel appeared. It was not one ship but many. Colossal dreadnoughts filled the image, each one longer than 10 human cities, bristling with cannons and armored plating. Behind them, hundreds of smaller escorts moved like wolves guarding titans. The Vrokan general lifted his goblet high and roared with pride. "These are warships. These are weapons of power. With such strength we decide the fate of systems." His eyes then fell on Thomas, cold and amused. "What does Earth decide with its fragile shells? The fate of one lonely planet, perhaps?" Laughter swept the chamber again. The sound grew as the Ikari delegate moved forward, mandibles clicking. His projection showed rivers of small organic ships, each shaped like an insect, their wings beating as they flew in vast swarms. "We are the collective," the delegate hissed. "One ship is nothing. 10 ships are nothing. 1,000 ships are the beginning of our swarm." The image expanded until the screen was filled with countless vessels, more than the eye could follow. The Ikari spread his arms as if to cover the galaxy itself. "This is what true numbers mean. How can Earth resist a storm that blots out the stars?" The chamber thundered with approval. Even species not allied with the Ikari nodded in respect at such overwhelming numbers. The laughter returned louder than before. Some delegates shouted across the chamber, calling Earth a world of children. Others joked that humans should remain in their skies and never leave their home. At last, the council chair announced that Earth would now present its fleet. Thomas stood slowly. He walked to the podium with the same calm steps as before. He did not bow, did not spread his arms in grand display, and did not raise his voice. His hands moved over the control panel, and the hologram changed. Above him, a projection of Earth's cruisers appeared. The ships were small compared to the others shown before. Their hulls were plain gray, their design functional and simple. No glowing wings, no endless swarms, no armor shining like suns. They were ships built for endurance, not spectacle. The chamber fell silent for a brief second, and then the laughter erupted again, louder than ever. Some delegates leaned back, holding their sides. Others banged the tables as though the sight itself was a performance made to entertain them. A Solari envoy raised his wings and said, "I have seen mining barges with greater beauty. Perhaps Earth has brought us cargo vessels and mistaken them for warships." The Ikari delegate hissed with cruel amusement. "Perhaps they are warships. In that case, they are warships built for ants." Even the Vrokan general raised his goblet again, smirking as he said, "It is mercy that Earth was invited. This is not a council of equals. This is a council of the strong, and Earth is weak." The sound rolled across the chamber like thunder. Yet Thomas did not flinch. He stood under the vast hologram of his ships, his expression calm and steady. His silence began to press against the noise. A few noticed the weight of that silence. The aged commander of the Volari Union leaned forward, his eyes sharp. He whispered to his aide, "Why does he not break? Why does he not even try to answer?" As the laughter began to fade, Thomas finally spoke. His voice was calm, without anger or pride. "These are the ships you see. Old, yes. Small, perhaps. But they are not the whole of Earth. The words drew some quiet, though many still smirked. The council chair raised a hand for silence, then turned to Thomas. Earth has presented its fleet. The council has heard. We shall move forward. Once again, the sound of scorn filled the chamber as the session continued. Delegates muttered jokes and whispered insults, certain that Earth had been shown as a weak and unworthy member of the stars. They believed the matter was settled, but Thomas returned to his seat in silence, his calm presence unshaken. He knew what the others did not. What had been shown was only a fraction. Humanity had hidden its strength for a reason, and the day would come when that strength would no longer remain in shadow. The council chamber grew quieter as the session moved forward, but the echo of laughter still lingered in the walls. Delegates from powerful empires had already dismissed Earth in their thoughts. To them, the human envoy had shown weakness and offered nothing but a display of fragile ships. Many believed Earth would never rise beyond a minor world clinging to survival. Thomas remained seated in calm silence. His hands were folded on the table and his steady eyes followed each new speech. While the others argued over supply routes and battle lines, he seemed content to listen. To most, his silence confirmed the weakness of his people. To a few, however, it created unease. The aged commander from the Valerie Union spoke quietly to his aide. Do you see his eyes? He does not fear us. He is not broken by the laughter. Either he is a fool or he knows something we do not. The aide whispered back. Humans are small. Perhaps his silence is only stubbornness. The commander shook his head slowly. I have lived long enough to know silence can hide steel. As debates over the war raged on, one of the Solari envoys turned sharply toward Thomas. His wings rustled as he spoke across the chamber. Human envoy, perhaps you should leave these matters to those with power. What does Earth know of galactic war? You cannot even hold a moon against a swarm. The remark drew nods and laughter from others, but Thomas did not smile. He rose slowly from his seat. The chamber fell into partial silence, surprised that the human would dare to speak again. He stepped forward to the central podium, his voice calm yet carrying across the hall. Earth may not have fleets that fill the stars. We may not have dreadnoughts that blot out the suns. But you mistake silence for weakness and patience for fear. The words caused a stir. Some scoffed, others frowned, but Thomas continued, his tone steady. Humanity has survived every storm it has faced. When fire rained from the skies in ancient wars, we rebuilt. When plagues swept our lands, we endured. When our own kind brought ruin upon us, we rose again. We are not the oldest, not the strongest, not the wealthiest. But we are the ones who never stop standing. When the world turns against us, we learn to fight with empty hands until we find a blade. The chamber shifted with whispers. Some found his speech amusing, others unsettling. The Akari delegate hissed loudly, clicking his mandibles. Words, only words. History of a nursery world means nothing in the stars. Here, strength is fleets, not stories. Thomas looked directly at the Akari and answered, Stories are not weapons, that is true. But they are lessons. Each lesson has shaped us. Each hardship has forged us. Every enemy we faced thought we would break. None succeeded. You may call us weak, but weakness that does not break becomes resilience. Resilience becomes strength. The Vrokan general laughed, though not as loud as before. He raised his goblet and said, So Earth is proud of surviving its own chaos. That is not enough to stand in this war. You speak of scars as if they are weapons. Thomas replied calmly, Scars remind us we survived, and survival is the foundation of victory. A silence followed those words. For the first time, the chamber did not burst into laughter. Some still sneered, but others studied the human envoy more carefully. The aged Valari commander leaned back in his seat, his eyes narrowing. He whispered again to his aide, This is no fool. This envoy carries the weight of something greater. Still, the council chair tapped the table to restore order. The words of Earth have been heard. Let us return to the matters of the war. The session continued, yet the mood had shifted slightly. Though most still believed Earth was powerless, a shadow of doubt had entered their thoughts. Why had the human spoken with such certainty? Why did he not tremble before fleets that could shatter worlds? As the debates closed for the day, Thomas stood once more to address the council. His voice remained calm, but every word struck with deliberate weight. You believe humanity is weak because you measure power in numbers and size. But strength is not only steel and fire. Strength is endurance. You have seen our scars and mocked them. Remember this warning. Humanity does not bend forever. When pressed to the edge, we rise higher than any expect. The words echoed across the chamber. Delegates shifted uneasily in their seats. Some muttered that humans were arrogant, others that they were naive. Yet no one laughed this time. Thomas bowed slightly, then returned to his seat. His calm expression did not change, but inside he knew the seeds had been planted. The galaxy had been warned. Earth had endured storms before, and if another came, humanity would show the galaxy what resilience truly meant. The council ended with formalities, but whispers followed Thomas as he left the chamber. Some envoys scoffed at him, some ignored him, and some could not forget his words. In the silence of his walk back to his quarters, Thomas allowed himself a faint smile. They had mocked Earth, yes, but the warning had been spoken. The galaxy might not believe it yet, but one day soon they would. The next gathering of the Galactic War Council began under the same glittering dome of Kaldor Prime. The great hall shone with silver light, banners of many empires hanging high above. Yet there was a quiet tension that had not been there before. The words of the human envoy still lingered in the minds of some delegates. Many dismissed them as prideful speeches from a weak world, but a few could not forget the calm certainty in his voice. Thomas entered the chamber with the same steady pace as before. His uniform remained plain, his figure small compared to the towering envoys of greater powers. But this time, some eyes followed him with curiosity rather than mockery. He took his seat without a word, waiting as the council began its discussions. The session opened with reports of the ongoing war against the unknown threat that spread across the edges of known space. Worlds had fallen, fleets had been scattered, and colonies had gone silent. Each empire gave its updates. The Solari spoke of deploying their shining warbirds but losing several to ambushes. The Vrokan admitted that even their dreadnoughts had suffered heavy losses. The Ikari, proud of their swarms, hissed angrily about colonies consumed despite their vast numbers. The war was not going well. Fear crept into the chamber, though no one wanted to admit it openly. Finally, the council chair turned toward Thomas. "Envoy of Earth, do you bring news or aid?" The words carried a tone of dismissal, as if nothing of value could come from him. Thomas rose slowly and walked to the podium. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of those who had laughed at him before. His voice was calm as always. "You have seen Earth's old ships and mocked them. You have measured us and found us lacking. But what you saw was not the whole truth." The chamber stirred with murmurs. Delegates leaned forward, some with interest, others with scorn. The Solari envoy scoffed, spreading his wings. "What else could your world offer? More fragile cruisers? More empty words?" Thomas touched the control panel before him. The holographic display above the podium flickered, then shifted. What appeared next froze the chamber in silence. A single ship filled the projection. Its scale was unlike anything the council had seen. The vessel's hull stretched longer than the Vrokan dreadnoughts, but its design was sharper, more deliberate. The surface was dark as night, lined with glowing streams of silver light that pulsed like veins of living fire. Energy fields shimmered around it, layered like a shield woven from the stars themselves. At the front of the ship, etched in massive letters, was its name, Erebus. The chamber gasped. Some envoys leaned back in shock. Others narrowed their eyes in disbelief. The silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of the hologram. "This is the flagship of Earth," Thomas said. "Built in secret, forged in silence. While the galaxy laughed, we labored. While you mocked, we built. Erebus is not a cruiser, not a dreadnought. It is something new." The Solari envoy shook his head, his feathers bristling. "A trick. A false image. Humans cannot build such a vessel. Your world lacks the resources, the knowledge, the forges." Thomas answered simply. "You mistake quiet work for weakness. You mistake patience for emptiness. We did not borrow. We did not beg. We built with our own hands." The Vrokan general slammed his claw on the table, his golden armor gleaming. "Impossible. No records of such construction exist. Our networks watch every system. Such a vessel would have been seen." Thomas looked directly at him. "You watched the skies. You did not watch the shadows. Earth has always known how to build when no one is looking." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some envoys whispered of hidden shipyards. Others wondered if Earth had discovered lost technology. The Ikari delegate clicked his mandibles angrily. "Even if this vessel exists, one ship cannot change a war." Thomas's calm voice carried across the hall. "One ship can turn the tide if it is the right ship. Erebus is not only power, it is resilience shaped into steel. It carries the will of humanity, the spirit you mocked. The aged Valari commander leaned forward, his sharp eyes fixed on the hologram. His voice was low, but it carried weight. The image is real. The data confirms its scale. This is no illusion. The chamber erupted with arguments. Some demanded proof, others accused Earth of deceit. Yet the image of Erebus hung above them, silent and undeniable. Its presence filled the hall with a weight greater than any speech. Thomas waited for the voices to fade, then spoke again. You asked what Earth knows of galactic war. We know survival, and we have shaped survival into this vessel. Erebus does not exist to conquer. It exists to endure and to remind the galaxy that humanity will not kneel. The silence that followed was deeper than the one before. No laughter rose this time. No mocking words filled the air. The delegates stared at the ship above them, realizing that the world they had dismissed had created something none of them had expected. Thomas stepped back from the podium, his expression calm. He returned to his seat, leaving the image of Erebus glowing in the chamber. The council members whispered among themselves, their confidence shaken. For the first time, Earth was no longer a joke. Earth had become a question, one the galaxy was not yet ready to answer. The great chamber of the Galactic War Council had never been so quiet. The image of the human flagship, Erebus, still hovered in the air above the podium. Its massive frame and glowing silver lines shone with power. Delegates who once mocked Earth now sat in silence, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, suspicion, and unease. The Solari envoy was the first to break the silence. He stood with his wings half raised, his voice sharp. This is deception. Earth could not have built such a vessel. Their world is young, their reach small. They lack the wealth and knowledge for this creation. His words were strong, but his feathers trembled slightly, betraying his doubt. The Vrokan general slammed his claw on the table, golden armor clattering. Agreed. A ship of this size requires star forges, resources of entire systems, fleets of workers. We have watched Earth. We have seen no sign of such building. But even as he spoke, a stream of data from the hologram fed into the council records. The energy readings, hull dimensions, and weapon output all matched reality. The council's networks confirmed that the ship existed. It was not a false projection. It was not a trick. The Akari delegate hissed loudly, mandibles snapping. If true, then Earth has hidden from us. They built in shadows. Such secrecy is dangerous. What else are they hiding? Whispers spread across the chamber. Some envoys leaned toward their neighbors, voicing fears that Earth might have other hidden vessels. Others asked how humanity, so young among the stars, could surpass ancient empires in secret. The chamber that once rang with laughter now trembled with doubt. Thomas stood at the podium once more. His calm voice carried across the noise. You doubt because you do not understand. You believe strength comes only from size and riches. Humanity learned long ago that survival requires more than numbers. We built Erebus not with endless resources, but with will and determination. We built because we had to. His words only deepened the unease. The Solari envoy snapped back. One ship cannot turn the tide of war. Do you expect us to believe this vessel will defeat swarms, dreadnoughts, and armadas? Thomas's eyes met his without flinching. One ship may not win a war alone, but one ship can change how a war is fought. One ship can prove that those who are underestimated can rise above all expectation. The chamber grew restless again. Some envoys scoffed, unwilling to admit fear, while others whispered of human cunning. The aged Valari commander finally rose from his seat, his voice deep and measured. I have studied the history of humanity. Their envoy speaks truth. They have survived trials that would have broken many. If they have built this ship, then we must accept they are not as weak as we believed. The statement carried weight. The Valari were respected for their wisdom and long memory. Some delegates nodded reluctantly, while others shook their heads in denial. The Vrokan general growled, his pride unwilling to bend. Even if this ship exists, even if it is as strong as it appears, what is Earth compared to empires that span the stars? One world cannot stand against many, Thomas answered firmly. One world that refuses to kneel is stronger than many worlds that bend. Humanity has no vast empire, yet we endure. Erebus is a symbol of that endurance. The council fell into argument. Voices clashed across the chamber, some demanding investigation of Earth, others warning against provoking a species capable of such secrecy. The Ikari insisted that humanity was dangerous and should be crushed before they grew stronger. The Solari called for proof in battle. The Volari urged caution, their commander repeating that underestimating humans could be a grave mistake. Through it all, Thomas stood silent again. He did not argue further. His calm presence unsettled the council more than loud words could. His silence suggested confidence, a quiet certainty that unnerved even the proudest generals. At last, the council chair raised a hand. The hall fell still, though the tension remained heavy. The matter of Earth's flagship will be recorded and studied. This council will not decide today, but let none forget what has been revealed. The humans have shown something none of us expected. Whether it is a danger or an ally remains to be seen. The image of Erebus flickered and faded, but its shadow remained in every mind. As the session closed, envoys left the chamber whispering of hidden human strength. Some feared, some mocked, some planned, but none dismissed Earth anymore. Thomas returned to his seat quietly. He had seen the doubt in their eyes. He had heard the fear in their whispers. For centuries, humanity had been ignored, treated as nothing more than a young world with no voice. Now the galaxy was forced to listen. He rose and left the chamber, his steps calm and steady. Behind him, the council hall still buzzed with argument. Ahead of him, humanity's path was clear. The secret was out. Erebus had been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same. The revelation of Erebus had shaken the Galactic War Council, but many still clung to doubt. Some believed the humans had shown nothing more than a trick of light. Others feared the ship might be real, but dismissed it as only one vessel among countless fleets. The chamber of Kaldor Prime was filled with whispers, debates, and suspicion. Thomas knew words alone could not change their minds. Humanity had been mocked too long, and the galaxy would not believe until it saw proof with its own eyes. That moment came sooner than the council expected. On the second day of meetings, Thomas stood once more. His calm voice carried across the chamber. You question if Erebus is real. You wonder if Earth has the strength to shape war. Then you shall see with your own eyes. With a command, the holographic display changed. This time it was not a still projection of Erebus. It was a live transmission. The screen filled with the sight of a barren moon circling a gas giant. The gray surface of the moon stretched wide, scarred with craters. Hanging above it was the dark and massive form of Erebus. Its silver energy lines glowed steadily like veins of fire against the night. The chamber fell silent. Delegates leaned forward, eyes locked on the vision before them. The ship was no illusion. It cast shadows on the moon below, its size impossible to deny. Thomas spoke clearly. You doubt because you have only seen shadows. Now you will see what this ship can do. Inside the transmission, a calm human voice counted down. Weapon test commencing. Target uninhabited moon 54321. A low hum shook the chamber speakers. From the prow of Erebus, a beam of light burst forth. It was not wild or chaotic. It was focused, precise, and terrifying. The beam struck the moon's surface with a flash that lit the screen brighter than any star. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ground itself shattered. The entire surface of the moon cracked apart. Mountains split, valleys rose in fire, and the crust tore open. With a deep roar, the moon began to break into fragments. The pieces drifted away into space, glowing red at their edges. What had once been a celestial body was now a field of broken stone scattered in orbit. The chamber gasped. Even the proudest envoys, who had mocked Earth only a day before, could not hide their shock. The Solari envoy's wings folded tightly against his body. The Vrokan general lowered his goblet without a word. The Ikari delegate clicked his mandibles in panic, his eyes wide. Thomas allowed the silence to stretch before speaking again. You have seen fleets that fill the stars. You have seen dreadnoughts that boast of power, but have you seen a single ship erase a moon in seconds? Erebus was built not for show but for survival. It is the hand of humanity reaching into the dark and refusing to be broken. The chamber erupted with voices. Some envoys shouted that it was impossible. Others demanded to know how Earth had achieved such power. A few whispered of danger, warning that humanity could not be trusted. The fear in their voices was clear. The Solari envoy finally stood, his feathers trembling. Such a weapon is unstable. No species should hold such power. If Earth wields this ship, then Earth threatens every star in this council. Thomas turned his calm eyes on him. Erebus does not exist to threaten. It exists to protect. Humanity has no wish to conquer your worlds. But if the galaxy chooses to bring war to Earth, then we will not kneel. We will stand. And you have now seen what standing means. The Vrokan general, proud yet shaken, growled from his seat. If this ship is truly under your command, then humanity holds a blade at the galaxy's throat. Why should we not unite against you now? Thomas's voice was steady. Because humanity has never sought to rule the stars. We only seek to live among them. If you raise a blade against us, we will fight. If you allow us to stand beside you, we will fight with you. The choice is yours. The words carried a weight none could ignore. The image of the shattered moon still floated above the chamber, a reminder of what Erebus had done. The laughter that once filled the council hall was gone, replaced by unease and fear. The aged Valeri commander rose slowly, his voice deep and thoughtful. The humans speak with truth. They do not seek conquest, but they will not bow. We must decide if Earth is a rival or an ally, for they are no longer a shadow in the galaxy. The chamber fell into hushed debate, but no one dared to laugh anymore. The image of the Erebus had burned itself into every mind. Humanity had shown its hand, and the galaxy could not look away. Thomas stepped back from the podium, his calm presence unbroken. He knew the council would argue, doubt, and plan, but one fact had been carved into their thoughts as deeply as the cracks in the shattered moon. Humanity was no longer a powerless world. Humanity had revealed its strength, and the galaxy would never forget what it had witnessed. The council chamber of Kaldor Prime no longer echoed with jeers. The sound of mocking voices had been replaced by a heavy silence. The shattered moon still rotated in fragments on the screen above the hall, glowing with the fire of its destruction. Every delegate's eyes had seen what the human flagship Erebus could do. None could deny it now. Thomas stood at the center of the chamber, calm as ever. He looked across the sea of alien faces, some filled with fear, some with awe and some with anger. Yet none laughed. None called Earth weak anymore. The silence was more powerful than the loudest cheer. The celery envoy finally rose. His wings twitched, his voice sharp but strained. The galaxy cannot allow a single world to hold such power. What if Earth turns its weapon against us? What if humanity decides it wants more than survival? Whispers followed his words, some agreeing, some shaking their heads. The Akari delegate hissed loudly. The collective does not kneel to humans. If they threaten the stars, they must be destroyed before they grow further. The Vrokan general, though shaken, still wore pride like armor. Strength deserves respect, but it also demands caution. If one ship can erase a moon, then Earth has become a rival empire in all but name. The chamber filled with voices, fear clashing with anger. Some demanded that humanity be stopped. Others argued that a war against such power would be foolish. For the first time, Earth was at the center of every conversation. Thomas waited until the noise began to fade, then spoke again. His voice was calm but carried weight, each word pressing into the minds of those who listened. You fear humanity because you judged us too soon. You mocked us, laughed at us, dismissed us as fragile. Yet we endured. Erebus is not a weapon of conquest. It is a shield forged from survival. Humanity did not build it to rule. We built it to live. The words struck the chamber like steady hammer blows. The aged commander of the Valeri Union slowly stood. His voice was deep, filled with the wisdom of centuries. The humans speak truth. Their history is one of survival, not empire. They carry scars that prove their strength. They do not seek to control the galaxy, but they will not bow to it either. We must see them as they are, not as we once imagined. Many delegates looked at the Valeri commander with respect, for his voice often guided the council in times of doubt. Some envoys nodded reluctantly. Others remained stiff with distrust. Yet the laughter was gone. Thomas bowed slightly toward the Valeri, then lifted his gaze once more. We did not come here to ask for favor. We did not come here to kneel. We came to tell you this. If war comes to our door, humanity will rise to meet it. If you call us allies, we will fight beside you. But if you call us enemies, then you now know what stands behind us. The silence that followed was total. Not a wing rustled, not a claw tapped the table. The council chamber, once filled with scorn, now sat frozen in the shadow of truth. Slowly, the chair of the council rose. His voice, usually sharp, was measured and heavy. The humans have spoken. Their ship has been seen. Their warning has been heard. The council will remember this day. The session ended, but no cheers followed, no laughter filled the air. Delegates left the chamber in uneasy silence, their thoughts heavy with what they had witnessed. Whispers followed them into the corridors, whispers of fear, whispers of respect, Whispers of change. The name Erebus spread across the council halls like fire in dry grass. Thomas walked out of the chamber alone as he had entered. His steps were calm, his face steady. Behind him, the galaxy had been forced to see Earth not as a fragile world, but as a power that could no longer be mocked. Ahead of him, humanity's path was uncertain, but it was no longer hidden. The stars would remember this day. They would remember the silence that followed laughter. They would remember the moment when a small world stood tall among giants and revealed a strength no one had expected. In the heart of that silence, a new truth was born. Humanity was no longer the species others dismissed. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again.